So welcome everybody, and thank you so much for attending today's webinar with AssetWorks and ChargePoint on the path to electrifying fleets. My name is Mary Ellen Kennedy from the AssetWorks team, and I'll be moderating for today's presentation, along with John Andrews from the ChargePoint team. How are you doing, John?
I'm doing well. Can you hear me now?
Oh, yep, awesome. I think you were on mute for a second, but we're all good.
Good.
Awesome. So we are going to go ahead and get started in just a second. But first, I would like to say that we are very excited to have both Joe Bozell and David Breault with us as presenters today. Joe is the Vice President of Hardware Solutions at AssetWorks, and David is the Senior Manager of Fleet Solutions at ChargePoint. And they both bring an extensive knowledge of electric vehicles and alternative fueling in the fleet industry. And I, for one, am really excited to hear their presentations today. So before we get started, I want to give all of you a quick heads up. All of the microphones have been muted. So if any of you have any questions at any time during the presentation, you can use the WebEx chat tool. You should all see the chat icon located on your screen, and this acts as an instant messaging tool. Please feel free to use the WebEx chat tool to enter any questions during the presentation. Make sure you send them to host, and John and I will be happy to field and relay them to Joe and David at the conclusion of the presentation for a brief Q&A. So with that said, I think we are ready to get started. So John, do you want to take it away with our agenda introduction?
Sure. Thank you, Mary Ellen, and thank you to everyone in attendance. My name is John Andrews. I'm on the product marketing team at ChargePoint. And today, we wanted to cover a few things with you. We wanted to share our insights on moving to an EV fleet, starting with the vehicle trends we are seeing. Then we'll look at describing to you the process of moving to an EV fleet, followed by how AssetWorks can help you with that transition and what the integration with ChargePoint looks like. At this point, we'd love to hand the presentation over to David Breault. David, it's all yours.
Thank you, John. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody, depending on where you're coming from in the country. Really appreciate you taking time to join our webinar, The Path to Electrifying Your Fleets. Again, as John mentioned, my name is David Breault. I'm a Senior Manager on Fleet Solutions team at ChargePoint. What's interesting about ChargePoint is we have several subject matter experts specifically in fleet. So whether you have a medium or heavy duty fleet, municipal, transit, light duty passenger fleet, work and delivery, we have subject matter experts that have a lot of experience on hand to help assist AssetWorks in your transition to an EV fleet. The future of mobility. Electric vehicle adoption is growing at a very rapid pace. As you can see on the slide here, over the next 20 years, it is expected that 55% of the light-duty vehicles on the road will be, in fact, electric. And you can see it's not just attacking one segment of the marketplace. It actually can fill a very wide niche. And we'll touch on a little bit of the vehicle types now. So motor pool fleets have been making their way toward electric vehicles for some time. Many started out with hybrid vehicles, such as the old hybrid Ford Escape, potentially a Prius and some others. Then they moved up into plug-in hybrid models like the vehicles you see on the screen here. While plug-in hybrid vehicles do offer some all-electric miles, you still have the plus and minuses of having both powertrain, both an electric powertrain and gasoline powertrain on board. So you're still required to do oil changes, trips to the gas station, and then also manage your EV charging. Now, as all electric platforms are expanding, motor pool fleets are finding them very easy to integrate into their operations. There are obvious benefits like reduced maintenance costs, like, as I mentioned, oil changes, brakes, and tune-ups are some of the easy ones. There are extended benefits that, like meeting your sustainability goals, driver comfort, and my favorite, no idling, which is a big concern for many municipal motor pool fleets. I know the cars on this page don't solve for all your fleet needs and vocations, so we'll provide a little insight as to what's coming down the road. Over the next few slides, I'm going to share some insight into EV trends that we're seeing today. One segment we're seeing some pretty quick growth in is upfitter and what I'll call QVM manufacturers. There are several vehicle upfitters that are growing due to a product gap in the marketplace. Companies like you see on the screen here, like Excel and Phoenix, use a proven existing OEM chassis and then retrofit their electrification system on board. This could be a great solution for you to electrify your commercial vehicles and meet sustainability goals. Since there isn't a wide offering from Ford, GM, and others in this space, these fast-moving companies are able to fill a niche until there is. Since they are built on a chassis you are familiar with, this can be a low-risk option to pilot or even scale your electric vehicle fleet. One of the largest opportunities for EV adoption is going to lie closely to the largest segment of vehicle sales in the US, pickup trucks. As you can see on the screen here, Lordstown Motors is working on their electric vehicle truck and will have a fleet-focused model. You can go on their website. I think you can reserve vehicles at this time. These will be made in America vehicles at the Lordstown plant. You've probably all heard of Rivian or seen them in the news or on press releases. They're getting a lot of attention in the last year. Rivian is a company out of Detroit that has partnered with both Ford and Amazon on electric vehicle platforms. They boast incredible torque and performance figures, and their pickup includes great storage and functionality. Rivian is taking deposits. However, they are already scheduled to plan deliveries for later next year. Bollinger Motors is a Michigan-based company. They're building electric trucks with a more, I would say, industrial outlook. These vehicles are very designed as purpose-built and boast a very high level of capability and functionality. If you think of the fleet, municipal, and utility space, the requirements and functionality and kind of the vocation that you could build these trucks into probably expands a little bit more than the others, while it does maybe have a little less creature comforts than some of the other ones. Again, but just showing you a wide range of kind of where the market's going. Many of you already have very large Ford and General Motors fleets. Both Ford and GM have made several big announcements regarding their commitment to electric vehicles and the technology that surrounds them. Most recently at the NTEA Work Truck Show in March, Ford announced the all-electric transit van coming in late 2021. You've probably seen the videos of the Ford F-150 all-electric, but you can either follow the links there below or by all means go to the manufacturer's websites for updates. The Ford Transit van, I think, will make a pretty big impact, especially to the crowd on the phone today, just because of the wide range of vocation that it can address. And on the vehicle side, last but certainly not least, in a large swing in the marketplace, what was once the largest gas guzzling platform available from any OEM is now moving to all electric. I think this move makes sense on a lot of different levels from a marketing and sales perspective, but especially important if I can be the first one to have one in my driveway. I think this is a very ingenious move by brand folks and getting a vehicle adoption to electric vehicles. Even after going through the trends we're seeing in the EV space, it doesn't stop in one class or group of vehicles. I know I spoke a lot about pickups here. Over the next 12 to 18 months, you will see a large variety of electric vehicles, including refuse trucks, delivery trucks, all the way up to Class 8. You can see a lot of the press release plugs here on the page. Peterbilt, Volvo, Mack, Oshkosh, Fuso, any of the Daimler groups are all working on electrification because this is such a large segment. These vehicles have to be very well tested and proven before coming to market. So, they might be a little bit slower to the retail space than some of the light duty vehicles. However, don't mistake them for not working on it behind the scenes. You will see these on the road very soon. So deploying your fleet. Go to the next slide. So why transition to an electric fleet? There are many benefits to electric vehicles. Transitioning your gasoline or diesel vehicles to an electric can quickly help you meet sustainability goals. Many fleets today have electrification or environmental mandates which must be met. There are significant operational savings with EVs. They're generally less expensive to operate per mile due to fuel savings, general repairs, as I mentioned, oil changes, brakes, and are often more comfortable to the driver. Since many of the folks joining us today are from municipalities and larger fleets, you have the unique position of being an influencer in your area. Once the region sees you adopting fleet EVs, the adoption rates for other local businesses, fleets, and customers will rise. And we've seen this in many markets. including New York, Ohio, LA, and others. To start, let's touch on a few things to consider when planning EV charging at your facility. Do you have dedicated parking spaces? While your favorite location might be ideal for EV charging, are there other stakeholders who use the building and spaces who should be involved? What is the electrical capacity of the building? Is this a newer building or an older one? The good news is with our smart chargers, we can make the best use of the available power without investing significant upgrades. Installing the actual charging equipment. Make ready. So make ready is the term used to describe the task of bringing the electricity from the building to the actual charging station. This work is often provided by outside contractors, or if you have folks on staff that can handle construction and EV, but I'll touch on more again on this later. Chargers mounted to the building can be more straightforward than those in the middle of a parking lot. However, many customers place chargers here as they are more accessible from a variety of parking spots. From a fleet manager's perspective, at ChargePoint, we look at fleet charging as electric fuel, not just charging vehicles. And you should be managing this fuel similar to the way you manage gasoline, diesel, and other fuels today. First and foremost, you design for reliability. Vehicle uptime is number one. If the vehicle isn't fully functioning when the day starts, it's not a fun day for anyone. Workflow integration, as I mentioned earlier, however you manage your fueling today, because we are fleet focused, ChargePoint has put a lot of effort over the years to integrate with all types of fleet software tools that you currently use today, like AssetWorks, WEX, Voyager fuel cards, Geotab, and others. Total cost of ownership, since fleet generally has a long dwell time, using our network chargers, we can optimize the output, timing, access control, meaning who uses the stations, and power management strategies to minimize fueling costs. We could provide a turnkey solution. So if you don't have staff on site to manage the station installation, AssetWorks and ChargePoint has a wide range of professional services from basic consultation to full project management. As you move toward an electric fleet, having control over the type of charging, time of charging, and who is using it is crucial. Imagine if your favorite coffee shop was open 24/7 without a cashier or attendee. There would be a lot of frustration, abuse, and no way of tracking where all the cups of coffee went. Similar to EV charging, you want to have control over who is charging, when the fleet is charging. You'd like to analyze the data and then make decisions going forward to best optimize utilization. Also, because the chargers are networked, we can integrate your electric fueling data into your AssetWorks reporting. So how do you get started? You ready to get a pilot going? How do you get started? It is essential to engage stakeholders, as I mentioned earlier, when you're looking at EV charging. You may have a facility or building manager, sometimes a landlord, a sustainability manager that might want to be included. Once the project begins, you may need electrical contractors and station installers that should also be brought in the loop. For large EV fleets, we have additional solutions to help with energy management, building power, and distribution. Together with ChargePoint's engineering solutions and energy solutions teams, we can help define your project scope. Including the team at AssetWorks, we have professional services that can help you through the process from simple product questions to, depending on the scale of the project, full project design and electrical engineering resources. If you don't have the time or staff to manage, we can also use third-party project managers that can offer full turnkey solutions. At ChargePoint, one of my favorite features about ChargePoint is our unparalleled planning and ongoing support. We have 24/7 driver support. We have extended station owner and operator support. And, a lot of folks, this is their first time with an electric vehicle or first time having electric charging stations in the area. And so having someone to talk to and walk through issues or help them with our dashboard can be crucial. Not sure if your building can handle your EV pilot. Using our ChargePoint's onboard power management features, instead of installing only 1 or 2 ports, you might be able to connect up to 4 to 8 using our panel or circuit sharing strategies. This can be especially helpful when you're just starting out. And then this is just a general summary of our professional services, which I've mentioned a few times. You can use some or all of the phases depending on the size and complexity of your project. Many customers prefer to have an experienced team to help them execute the project. Using our O&M partners across North America, we can assure you a quality local help to get the project done right. I look forward to answering any questions you may have, but first I'll pass it to Joe Basile from AssetWorks. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, David. This is Mary Ellen again. I just want to introduce our next presenter here. That's Joe Bozell, the Vice President of Hardware Solutions at AssetWorks. So, Joe, please take it away. You might be on mute, Joe. Hold on just one second.
Okay, how about that?
Perfect.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Joe from AssetWorks here. Welcome to this co-hosted webinar with, again, our partner, ChargePoint. As you heard David touch on, the future of mobility is electric. You can advance the slide, please. Our fleet-focused clients are telling us the same thing. Some have local, city, or county directives, as David had mentioned, and some are driven due to the fact that the cost and range issues of EVs have evolved to a more acceptable range for their everyday uses in supplying the essential services that their respective communities are accustomed to. Some of our clients are just getting into EVs, while others already have hundreds of chargers that are planning hundreds more. As stated previously, while we have clients in all different stages of EV use, from planning phase to hundreds of chargers already in place, our client base certainly is engrossed. Back almost 2 years ago, as we listened to the needs and direction of our clients in regards to EV use, we surveyed the marketplace of available chargers and charging companies and what most of our early adopter customers were using, and at that time the largest overlap between what was our client base and ChargePoints were using ChargePoint chargers. This was the birth of our partnership, and the process to working together has now evolved into the partnership that brings us here today. While we had planned a major release and splash at our Academy earlier this year, that did not come to fruition, as you're all aware, due to the pandemic. Instead, we've had several dozen unique views of a pre-recorded webinar on ChargePoint that was done for our virtual Academy, and over 300 or 400 clients and or prospective clients have signed up for this webinar, an affirmation that we have chosen the right partner to meet our needs of our clients. Most of you know me in relation to Fuel Focus. I've been selling, installing, maintaining RFID-based fuel management systems for just shy of 33 years here in the US. I have trained and or consulted for many of the competitors in the RFID fuel management arena over this time period. As many of you are aware, Fuel Focus is our fully integrated fuel management system that has provided accountability on every drop of fuel dispensed and has been doing so with fleet-focused customers for over 20 years. We have over 4,000 island controllers and 125,000 RFID boxes installed in the USA, with 4 to 5 times more of that installed worldwide. 32 years doing this means I'm a dinosaur that I thought would go extinct before I would be dealing with anything else like this electrical EV charging in EVs. Based on all the numbers I read, and David has touched on previously during his segment, coupled with all the city, county, state directives to electrify, I'm convinced that this dinosaur, meaning me, needs to evolve. Let's put it in perspective. This is fueling, like David mentioned before. Like CNG, LNG, hydrogen, and any other predecessor, to use my words, this is just another fuel type. Instead of pumps, it's chargers. Like you're accustomed to me asking you when doing budgetary quotes for Fuel Focus, how many hoses will your new site have? It's now, how many electric ports do you need today? What is your plan for the future so that we can make sure we're looking ahead and planning if and when infrastructure needs to be upgraded? As David mentioned also, we have the full O&M partner team of ChargePoint behind us to help you through any type of project such as this. You've all heard me say when it comes to Fuel Focus, conduit's cheap when the ground is open. This still applies here. So again, don't just think with the 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 chargers you need now. Let's think about the future. So, while I think I've already answered the question, why integrate with ChargePoint? The answer is the same reasons that you have with Fuel Focus. Many of you use Fleet Focus as your system of record. Those of you who are currently on this webinar that are not AssetWorks clients, we would like you to be. Fleet Focus is where you manage your data, run reports for your management team, utilize real-time data access to make informed decisions. What does Fleet Focus offer you? How will you see your electric charging data and associated costs? I am sure many of you are being asked to compare total cost of ownership on vehicle classes, but also on the difference between EV and internal combustion vehicles. How about data like this? This is an actual white paper or study that was put out by the City of New York. Okay. Would this be helpful to you to help you move or prove that the move to EV use is warranted? Can you guess what software New York City uses to extrapolate this data? It's Fleet Focus. So again, there's a couple links here. We can forward this. This is being pre-recorded. We can send you copies of this report and this study if you want. But as you can see, in the New York City fleet has more experience with electric vehicles than most. So we took a look at last year's maintenance cost with the DCAS client fleet to see if these services benefits are materializing. To quote them, right now, servicing cost with our all electric vehicle models is dramatically less than with a gas hybrid or hybrid plug-in models. In general, our hybrid models also achieve benefits over gas models, though the most dramatic results in this report are with all electric vehicles. Again, they're able to compare electric versus hybrid versus combustion engines using our Fleet Focus software. So, how does Fleet Focus help with the task as it has in New York City? Let's start with our comprehensive reporting. We have over 225 out-of-the-box reports. We export to multiple formats. We have robust scheduling capability. We distribute reports via email. You can save your favorites. You can modify existing reports. You can create your own and add to menus. We also have ad hoc reporting module, which is wizard-driven, guides users through report creation, reports against user database schema, user-friendly field names. You can build simple graphs and summary reports and save and share the developed reports you've made. We also have performance measures and monitors, trending over time. Compare location versus location, equipment type versus equipment type, time versus time period, a graphical method of viewing and drilling into industry standard management ratios and KPIs. We have key maintenance data points, which are individual maintenance data points such as labor hours, work order types, parts, cost, etc., summarized in the database over predefined ranges of time based on the data points. And then we also have PMMs, performance measures and monitors, which are ratios of KMDs that are useful in determining how a maintenance organization is performing. Web-based tools to compare subsets of your fleet criteria against each other. Users determine weighting out-of-the-box criteria. Again, you know, most of you are familiar with, and those of you who are not familiar with Fleet Focus, all this is available for you, and all with real-time data. Next slide, please. So, AssetWorks with ChargePoint. How does it really work? As you can see on the next slide, with our ChargePoint integration, here we'll walk through a demonstration on how it works. Again, our biggest differentiator here is real-time integration. Next slide. A user initiates a charge with either a fleet card or the ChargePoint app, and in the future, hopefully with the ability of RFID from your vehicle. Next step is the vehicle is then charged depending on the parameters set for this location. Once that charge is completed, the data is in the ChargePoint cloud. And lastly, once it hits the ChargePoint cloud, it's in your Fleet Focus or EAM database, whether you host your own version or if we host it for you. This is what an integrated solution looks like. Just like Fuel Focus, for those of you who are familiar with that. Just like the integration you may already have with one of our telematics partners or Lincoln Lube for your shop floor lubricant use. Let's summarize. ChargePoint is the best network solution on the market and has the largest presence to date. AssetWorks is the largest fleet and asset management software company. This partnership makes sense and benefits our clients. While ChargePoint is available from many ChargePoint partners, no partner can sell you the fully integrated solution that we're offering. We're hoping this benefits you and shortens your ability and associated cost to purchase, as this should justify a sole source purchase. If this is not enough justification, then obviously we offer this on Sourcewell and looking to add it to our GSA and many of our other state contracts that are based off GSA. If an RFP is required, we do our darn best to get wording inserted that networked chargers are the preferred method and full real-time integration is either a requirement or will be weighed more favorably than any other response. That concludes my portion of this, and we're on to any questions that you guys may have.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. So as Joe said, we are going to start opening up the floor to some of your questions. Just as a reminder, if you have any questions and you haven't asked them yet, please send them to host using the WebEx chat tool on your screen. Provided that we have enough time to go through all of the questions, we will pass them to Joe and David, and they will be happy to give you an answer. So Joe and David, we did have a few questions come through while your presentation was happening. Joe, we have one for you first. So this person, we already own several ChargePoint chargers that were not purchased through AssetWorks. Can they still be integrated?
100%. As I stated in my presentation, you know, our customers, our client base are in all different phases from planning to deploying to having deployed several hundred chargers already with plans to do more. So yes, it doesn't matter if you purchase them from AssetWorks or not. What you have can be integrated. We just hope you purchase future ones, obviously, from us. But again, it doesn't matter where they're purchased. The integration piece is available from AssetWorks and AssetWorks only, and we're happy to work with you.
Awesome. Thank you, Joe. And I think John had a question for David, I believe. I think you were on mute, John.
Yep, sorry about that. Yes, I do have one here. It's the question is, if we install charging stations, are they for use by fleet vehicles only?
Yeah, it's a great question, John. Thank you. So we have solutions, and we didn't really go over any product-specific presentations here. We can obviously meet with anybody if they'd like to, you know, dig deeper into actual product solutions for their unique fleet. But we have kind of three sections of product. We have mixed use, which can be used by the fleet and the general public. We have dedicated kind of behind the fence solutions, and then we have DC fast charging. The mixed use can be very popular because with a lot of grants and incentive monies that might be available from either VW funds or utility programs or things like that, a lot of them require program reporting, meaning utilization reporting, and some level of custom public access. And so having a mixed use station can often provide that for you. You can put them out front of the depot or places where the public does have access. Because the stations are networked, we can control how much the public is able to use them. So let's say you have a mixed use station out in front of the depot. We can actually say, all right, well, the public can use that from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. and then all other hours, it wouldn't allow the public to charge there. So it'd be specifically for fleet vehicles or your own team. This is great for workplace charging too. I know a lot of these fleets are also trying to let their employees charge while the fleet's gone during the day. Same position can be made.
Thanks, David. Mary Ellen, do you have any other questions there?
Yes, another one came through. So Joe, I think this one's for you, but David, you might be able to chime in as well. So several months ago, this person thought the ChargePoint was offering a rip and replace program that had special pricing for replacing non-networked chargers with ChargePoint chargers. And is that still available? And if so, can you just give us kind of a summary on what is included?
I can take that, Dave. This is Joe. Yes, we still offer, ChargePoint still offers, so obviously if purchasing either through a ChargePoint partner or through AssetWorks, we do offer a rip and replace on the mixed use chargers. So again, happy to talk with any of our clients out there. It's a good way to get off non-networked or competitive chargers or previous generation chargers from ChargePoint themselves. They do have some very nicely discounted pricing. For services, obviously it depends if we're replacing, the plans vary. If we're replacing existing older charge points with new ChargePoint models versus replacing competitive models, but we definitely have a rip and replace program and would be happy to discuss it with anybody at any time.
Thanks, Joe. Have another question. This one I think is for David. Wouldn't so? Let me see. Let me get this summarized here. Wouldn't it make more use to use fast charging stations for fleet vehicles? So I think that's referring to DC stations versus AC stations.
Yeah, it's a good question. And yes, this is one of the instances where bigger isn't always better. So we do offer DC fast charging. Because fleet vehicles and especially municipal fleet vehicles have a very long dwell time, meaning they sit for many hours during the day. If the fleet comes back at 4 or 5 o'clock in the night, they might sit, 10 or 12 hours. And so that offers the ability to charge slowly over a long period of time. And again, so we're trying to minimize electrical infrastructure on the building side to charge these vehicles. So DC charging, the idea is to get a lot of energy in a short amount of time. This can be better suited for, in addition, as kind of a backup to your bank of chargers. So we have some fleets that say have 50 AC charging ports. They might put 1 or 2 DC fast charging stations in case those vehicles need to have a quick turnaround time. I know City of New York has like parking official vehicles that run 2 or 3 shifts. And so DC fast charging allows them to get a quick charge quickly and get back on the road. But traditionally, you'll see mostly AC charging, a little lower cost, again, able to use the long dwell time to get the most efficient charge possible. DC charging, again, very fast turnaround time. And also, I should mention, very large trucks. So as we start seeing more all-electric refuse trucks and Class 8 vehicles, those will be DC charging. Not for so much the quick turnaround time, but because the vehicle batteries are just so much larger than passenger vehicles.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
We have another question that came through. How would you draw the lines between EV charging software versus fleet management software for fleet operators? And for EV fleet management, what are the core must-haves versus the nice-to-haves?
I could touch on that a little bit. So what's nice about the integration with AssetWorks is you have the AssetWorks dashboard that you're already own and familiar with, but you'll also get a ChargePoint dashboard. We have some people that set it and forget it, and we have other fleet managers that are in there every week. Our dashboard, I think, is one of the best secrets to our sauce. There's so much information and detail. It's very easy to use, very easy to click through. You can use as much or a little information as you like. I'm not very analytical, but I find it very easy to use and to walk through. You can use it to change access controls. You can use it to change pricing. So let's say for those mixed use chargers, you want to charge to the public during the day and have your fleet charge free at night. You can do a lot of power management features. We also get into kind of another level. I won't go too much into here, but we do integration with telematics products. So we can capture the vehicle mileage when you charge, and then also you can kind of look at state of charge of your vehicles as they're out and about, things like that. So and then again, because all that data gets pulled down every night and then shipped to AssetWorks, so you get to see all the fueling and integration on that side. So that's really where the secret sauce is. Joe, did you want to add to that at all?
Just checking through the chat, Mary Ellen, are there any other questions that you see?
Yes, hold on just one second. So I believe that this is a question for Joe, because Joe touched upon RFID during his section of the presentation. But Joe, is RFID similar to VIB, VIB?
Mm-hmm.
Looks like we...
Did we lose Joe?
Yeah, we
Sorry about that.
No problem.
I'm talking away on mute.
No problem, Joe. Do you need me to repeat the question?
that.
Do you need me to repeat
No.
the question? Okay.
When I mention RFID, it can mean the use of a VIB. It sounds like if you're using VIB, you're one of our fuel-focused customers already. Happy to talk to you about that offline. Again, there's a lot of different acronyms for the non-fleet focused and fuel-focused customers out there, depending on the product that you're using. But RFID is radio frequency ID. That can be talking about the use of radio frequency ID handheld cards like HID and the like, or it can be talking about onboard vehicle devices that automatically capture vehicle information and pass it through at the time of fueling. So yes, they can be used, and I'd love to talk to that person at further detail as to how we would incorporate that with ChargePoint chargers to pass the mileage data and the like at the same time.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe. Another question I saw come through. Is this for medium duty vehicles mostly? We are about to purchase 3 EV Type D school buses.
Yeah, this works for all size vehicles. As I mentioned, from a product side, we have solutions to fit all markets. We have some additional products on our roadmap to get even larger outputs and faster power. On the school bus market, we have a product called our CPF 50. It's a 50 amp charging solution. Some of the buses do go up to about an 80 amp charging capability. However, you don't necessarily need to go all the way to 80 amps, depending on how the route is going to be. A lot of these first school bus pilots are going on shorter routes and kind of more closely monitored routes. And so the 50 amp solution is usually more than enough. Again, those vehicles, if it comes back at 3 or 4 in the afternoon, it's got a long haul time, so you're able to recharge that fully pretty easily.
Okay, awesome. I saw a few people just chatting in asking if this webinar was recorded, and it was, so we will be emailing this out to everybody, including the Q&A section. We do have some more questions coming through. I'm just scrolling through them right now, everybody. So someone is asking if we can see what the integration looks like between AssetWorks and ChargePoint, specifically the reports. So I can send that information, Joe, to you and David, on the person who asked that question. But do you want to kind of give information on how someone can kind of see this more in depth?
Again, you need to have the module that goes for fleet focus to doing this. You need to be on version 19 and above. But that being said, at any time, give us a call here or email me, and we can arrange for your account rep to walk you through some screens and go from there with you.
Great. So can this type of integrated system also include time of use restrictions for demand management?
Yeah, I could take that. So yes, that's one of the key benefits of having network chargers. You can limit the access of who's using them, and then you could do different parameters throughout the day. So what they mean by demand charges, a lot of utilities have peak power or demand charges during very peak rates of use on the grid. And so oftentimes that's at the end of our workday, so say from 4 to 8 p.m. So when your fleet comes back, you can schedule it. If you know your utility has a peak demand charge, you can actually schedule your charging to be delayed. So let's say you have a Chevy Bolt, it only takes about 3.5, 4 hours to get that thing fully charged. When the vehicle comes back at 4, you plug it in, walk away. It may not actually start charging until 8 or 9 o'clock at night once that peak is over. Again, because you have that dwell time, you still have more than enough time to have that vehicle fully charged and ready to go in the morning. So this can be a very easy way to maximize your power of the building and also minimize any costs from your utility or provider.
Awesome. Another one that came in, does the system collect real-time vehicle information while the vehicle is charging, such as meter, charge level, etc.?
So I'll take that. Again, the ChargePoint chargers do not collect all of that data, but through either use of one of our RFID box or, as an example, GeoTab offers a solution, which is an onboard device also connected to the can of the vehicle, is available to capture and transmit that information to you. So again, would love to go into more detail with this person, and please reach out to us through either the emails you see on the screen, and we're happy to follow up with you.
Awesome. So you did mention ChargePoint stations. So this question has to do with public ChargePoint stations. So are public ChargePoint stations that are off-site of your company property also be integrated with AssetWorks software?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Joe.
Go ahead, Dave. Okay, I will. So yes, because once you have the integration with ChargePoint, based on your vehicle's ability to charge at any ChargePoint network charger, we would capture that information. So again, obviously we're going to capture the information. What you have to understand is the chargers that are on your premise, it's not like they're connected directly to Fleet Focus. All the data for your vehicles are going to the ChargePoint cloud. So whether you're at your own premise using your own chargers, or you're at the Starbucks using a ChargePoint charger, or the Target using a ChargePoint charger, or some other municipality using their ChargePoint charger, all of that data is going to the cloud based on your vehicle, and our integration piece will capture that no matter where the charge took place and bring that data in for you.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe. Another question that came in, will charging a vehicle appear in the same frames of Fleet Focus as fueling a vehicle with gas or diesel? What unit will be used for measurement of electricity, and how can that be compared to fuel emissions?
So you're getting, if you guys, again, all know me, I'm the hardware guy, but I'll do my best to answer that. And again, end it with, you can certainly follow up with us, and I'll get the intelligent software people on the phone to answer it with you also. Yes, the whole premise behind this integration is so that you are comparing. Again, as I started off my presentation, this is in essence a fuel transaction, except your fuel product is electricity, and it's going to show in kilowatt hours consumed. So all that information would be there, and then there would be able to give you comparisons so that you, again, can compare internal combustion engine or, and versus, gallon equivalents in electric vehicles. Type of comparisons will be able to be made for you.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe. I think this might be a question for David, but does ChargePoint have the bidirectional charging where an EV school bus can be used as a backup power supply to a building by putting power back on the grid?
That's a great question. Yeah, this question comes up almost every webinar I do. That's why I chuckled. That technology is called vehicle to grid, and it's becoming talked about a lot more recently, just due to the interest and the ability, again, if the grid has big demands during those peak power times that I mentioned, all these buses and large vehicles would have a potential amount of energy that could be put back in the building. So the technology itself is still several years away from being used and kind of effectively done in a cost-effective way, if you will. Because you think about it, every time you charge a vehicle, that's one way of electricity, then it discharges, the wear and tear on that battery, basically doubles when you're doing vehicle to grid. The good news is all ChargePoint hardware and a lot of our software is already bidirectional capable. And then so once that kind of business model and technology, a lot of this relies on the vehicle side as well. The vehicle bus OEMs like Bluebird and Thomas and others need to enable that kind of technology. Once that's all kind of proven out, we'll be able to kind of enable our network to do that as well. So the short answer is yes, and I already gave you the long answer.
And the short answer to that is, as well as ChargePoint would be monitoring what is being dispensed from that vehicle back to the grid, that would also be available in your AssetWorks software.
Cool. Got another question here. We are buying 70 amp stations. Does ChargePoint make a converter for smaller vehicles if we go with purchasing EV smaller vehicles? So not sure exactly what they're asking here, but David, do you have any insight here?
Yeah, that one's got me a little confused what they're asking about. So I'm not sure if they mean like the connector. So like our DC fast charging stations have a different CCS connector than the J1772 connector, which is typical in our industry. So I don't know if maybe they're worried about having some light duty vehicles that don't have level 2 capacity or something, or level 3 capacity. Not really sure.
Well, it could also be, 70 amp station. The vehicle's in charge of the charging. So if you have a vehicle that can't take the full 70 amps, and most of current vehicles do not charge at 70 amps, it'll only take what it's available. So I think if this person does have high power AC stations and their vehicle with a smaller charging capability, they won't max out the station. They'll only take what the vehicle can get. I think that's what they're asking.
Well, that's why we keep you around, John.
Occasionally, I have some insight.
Yeah, if not, please follow up with us and we can try to help you out more.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Another question that came through, guys. So are the telematics you mentioned part of ChargePoint, AssetWorks, or a third-party system?
C, all the above. So again, telematics is one of those words that can mean many, many things. If you have, as an example, one of our FJ3 RFID devices on, again, using a vehicle data collector near your chargers, that telematics data, such as percent of charge left in battery, the vehicle's odometer reading, any engine fault codes and things like that, if that's what you're referring to as telematics data, that can come from AssetWorks. Again, David talked about integrations that they have with other companies such as Geotab. So again, not only does ChargePoint have integration with Geotab, but so does AssetWorks. So if you have devices formerly from Fleet Karma, which is acquired by Geotab, that have the capability of capturing information off EV vehicles, then that telematic information is available to come into our applications also. So I think we covered, all applications there in regards to telematics data available. Again, whether it comes directly through the ChargePoint integration or through the Geotab integration or from our FJ3, the data would be there and obviously associated with the vehicle and the charge and so on.
Mm-hmm. Okay, still got some more questions coming in. So the next one is, do AC and DC charging have different effects on the batteries? And I'm assuming the vehicle batteries.
Yeah, a lot of people think that using DC charging too often would maybe lower the life cycle or lifespan of the vehicle's battery. It's really not the case anymore. The vehicles themselves all have a lot of technology and innovation just around the battery packs. The battery packs themselves are very smart to be able to protect themselves and maintain very long life. And so, as John mentioned earlier, you don't really run into having a problem of either using DC charging too much or whatnot. We haven't really seen any kind of degradation difference using one method over the other. Again, for most fleets, starting your day off with a full charge is kind of the best solution, and then you can kind of charge from there.
Awesome, thank you. So I think we just have time for one or two more questions. So here is the next one. Will this recorded data develop a service time for servicing the unit when it reaches a number of hours in usage?
I knew they were getting harder. Say that one more time.
No problem. Will the recorded data develop a service time for servicing the unit when it reaches a number of hours in use?
Sure. So if you're, I believe what you're referring to would be engine hours used on the EV. So if we're capturing that information through any of the telematics type devices we talked about in the previous question, then absolutely. As you're aware, Fleet Focus can determine service intervals based on gallons of fuel used, now kilowatt hours used, or time, meaning days, weeks, months, or engine hours. So any of those three capabilities or any of those three methods you're capable of sorting when a vehicle is due for service.
Okay, great. So I think that's all the time we're going to have for questions today. I will let everyone know that, if you had a question that you sent in and you weren't able to get it answered, just know that I have written down all of the questions with the people who asked them, so we can reach out to you guys right after this webinar. I'll forward your questions on to Joe and David. But like I said, that's all the time we have for questions today. So at this time, I would like to thank you all again for taking the time to attend today's presentation. I hope you've all secured some valuable takeaways to keep in mind moving forward. Joe and David, I would really like to thank you guys on behalf of both AssetWorks and ChargePoint once again for sharing your expertise and highlight everyone today. As you all can see, contact information is available here if you have any follow-up questions for David or Joe. But in the meantime, thank you all for attending today. I hope you have a great day, and we look forward to having you with us next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.